What's going on, everyone? My name is Aaron and I have spent many years traveling solo, mainly around Europe, and with each year and each experience that I've had, my advice and suggestions have changed. In this How to Travel Europe video, I'm going to share my suggestions with you guys based on my experiences. I'm going to share my top favourite 5 places to travel in Europe, the typical costs of traveling each country in Europe, along with the best methods of transport for anyone wanting to travel Europe, and when the best time of year to visit Europe is. And I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler on that one. It is not the peak summer months. So let's kick things off with the best methods of transport for anyone wanting to travel Europe. In the past, if you've seen any of my videos, you will know that I have made many videos on traveling around Europe using Interrail or EU Rail, depending on whereabouts in the world you're from. But my advice on this has actually changed over the past few years. Having said that, let's kick things off with Interrail as the first method of transport. So I'd only actually now recommend Interrail or EU Rail to people who either love trains or just want to take out the whole planning phase of actually traveling. If you just want to buy a train ticket, because that is basically what Interrail is, you buy the train ticket and then you can use it on pretty much any train in Europe. You do have to check, there are some that you can't use it on, but you're pretty much good to go. The whole planning part, whether you've got to stress about how you're going to get from A to B, that's kind of taken care for you using the Interrail app. So if you do want to just eliminate all planning for when you're traveling Europe, then Interrail is definitely a consideration. However, the next method of transport is the one that I do prefer to take now, which is buses. I'm going to explain why in just a moment. If you want more information on Interrail, I'm not going to go in a great deal in this video, so there will be a video linked on screen now and down below in the description where you can find out everything you need to know about Interrail. So why do I now recommend using buses to travel Europe? So in certain countries, whilst there are trains available, the frequency and the connections aren't great, whereas buses aren't only just available more frequently, but they also offer so much better connections if you want to travel to smaller towns, depending on what country you're in. Most of the time, trains won't even come close to covering the smaller regions or smaller towns. So I just prefer buses because the network of buses around Europe is amazing. Now, there are a lot of considerations for this. Not only are you trading off typically longer journey times by using buses, but you do gain that extra flexibility that I always talk about when mentioning traveling Europe, because if you don't remain flexible, you're going to potentially miss out on things. And finally, I don't tend to recommend this method of transport too often, but if you are only planning on visiting a few places around Europe, maybe it's just the major cities. For example, if you're only visiting Barcelona, Rome, say Berlin and Paris, then there is a good argument to be had just to fly. The amount of these short haul intercity flights that are available in Europe, they are all day, every day. You'll pretty much be able to guarantee that you can get a flight between the major cities. And with the amount of budget airlines in Europe, you will get a good deal on them. As I said, if you're traveling around a lot, I wouldn't recommend this. You've got to factor in the time that you will be in the airport, obviously before your flight and after the flight. So it's not just a typical maybe 1.5 hour flight. You're also factoring in 2 to 3 hours in the airport. But as I said, if you're short on time and you're only visiting a limited number of places, you should definitely consider flying. Now, just a quick note before we move on about currency in Europe. Obviously, the main currency used is euros, but some countries are still using their own currency. I was actually caught out with this on a recent work trip to Denmark just last week. They're still using their own currency, so it is always worth checking. You don't want to get to somewhere and already have withdrawn euros to only find out that you cannot use them in that country. So speaking of costs, let's take a bit of a look at a graphic that I've put together for the typical costs per European country for travelers. Now, obviously, before we do have a look, this graph is not 100% accurate. People are going to have their different experiences and different opinions on this thing. And at the end of the day, every country can be as cheap or as expensive as your trip needs it to be. You can spend as much as you want, or you can try and spend as little as you want, but these are just typical costs for most travelers. So I've split all the European countries into green, orange and red. Obviously green being what you consider to be cheaper or more affordable countries, and then red are the more expensive countries. As I said, this is just a guideline, so do not take this as a given. Some countries are typically more expensive, some are less, but it is all about how you like to travel and what you spend your money on. So finally, I am going to give my 5 favorite European destinations to you guys. This is based on my travel experiences. So here are my 5 favourite places in Europe. These are in no particular order, by the way, so let's just kick things off with Portugal. Portugal is probably your best option if you want to try and catch some warm weather, as the country has favourable weather conditions almost all year round. And if chilling on the beach or by a pool isn't for you, then you can head to Lisbon or Porto that offer a great European city experience. Now next up is Germany, and unfortunately I travelled Germany before I started making videos, so I've got a lot of photos from there but no videos, so I'm just going to kind of fill this section with some nice photos of Germany. Germany is an incredible country to travel, as you can explore the historical city of Berlin or even head down to Bavaria and check out Munich and the mountains and lakes that are also in the Bavaria region. There's obviously a lot more to Germany than those 2 places, but they are by far my favourite destinations in Germany. Now next up is Turkey, and I know technically only a small proportion of the country is actually in Europe, as once you cross the bridge in Istanbul, you're technically in Asia, but Turkey is a European and an Asian country, so for the purpose of this video, Turkey is included. Now Turkey offers something for every type of traveller. You can explore a major city like Istanbul, you can head off to the turquoise coast, you can check out some historical sites like the city of Ephesus, or you can even head inland to Cappadocia, where you will find an incredible unique experience by checking out the valleys and the hot air balloons. Now next up is my favourite country, Slovenia, and if you've watched my channel or you know me, it is no secret that I love this country, and it is very easy to see why. Slovenia is a relatively small and laid-back country, but it does offer some of the most breathtaking landscapes you will find anywhere in Europe. If you want more information on Slovenia, you can check out the travel guide that will be linked on screen right now. And finally, Slovenia's neighbouring country of Croatia also makes the list. Tourism rates have been growing in this country over the past few years, and rightfully so. Croatia offers a beach holiday experience to rival that of Spain and Greece at more affordable prices. Split, Zadar and Dubrovnik are excellent starting places for anyone looking to travel Croatia. However, the capital city of Zagreb is definitely not to be overlooked, along with the stunning Krka National Park and Plitvice Lakes. So that is all for this How to Travel Europe video. If you do have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments or head over to my Instagram and drop me a message and I will get back to you. But apart from that, enjoy exploring everything that Europe has to offer.